Hi, welcome back to Work in Progress. I'm Asantua, and we're back with Jeffrey today as well. It's just him and I today. And we're going to be discussing everything that's going on with the labor strike today in Iceland,
Wow.
the workers' movement, if you will, and basically the reality of workers like you and I, and we're actually in different unions as well. So I'm still working. What about yourself? Because of the strike. I'm technically still on work. Are you still on work now?
I am working.
Can you say?
No, I am working. I am, I will not say which union I am.
You're in,
because I, at this point, not even sure, but, I'll say this. I was really surprised when I came to Iceland how many unions there were, because in the United States, they killed the unions pretty much. So I was really kind of pleasantly surprised that there seemed to be a strong union community and good workers' rights and things. Coming from the United States, where I worked all the time without a union, and never had vacation time, never really had sick time. When my son was born in the States, I really didn't have leave to take to be with him. He was born early too.
I know Siki was born in the States.
So I was happy to see that, and having studied history, economic history, in school, we covered the Great Depression and carpetbagging and immigration and the financial backings of the slave trade, North and South. My mind just reels at how much I learned about just economic systems and whatnot. And what's strange is that when I was in college and I was studying economics, everything that I learned is out the window as far as economics now. And I'm talking, I was studying in 2000, 2001. I was doing business administration. And everything I remember I learned in those books, like the models are just gone. It just doesn't even, putting out a good product for customers. It doesn't matter because governments are giving businesses money to run and buy back stock. So the whole business thing that I learned about, building your business, getting to a plateau, and then, it usually falls off or it changes into something else, that no longer exists, and it's a weird model. But all that being said, with what's going on with the unions now, it seems like everything is going back historically to when, the John D. Rockefellers and Carnegies of the world kind of dominated business, and monopolies are a thing again, right? There was antitrust laws and all these laws that came up after that time of the Great Depression because those regulations and things weren't in place, and that's kind of some of the reasons these systems operated the way they did. And it seems like they got rid of those regulations, and it's just repeating what happened before the Great Depression. Over speculation, businesses doing things amongst themselves without regard to what's going on in the society, it's disheartening, to tell you the truth. And the thing is I don't think most people know enough history to even care. I think we've gotten to a level of comfort, and social media has distracted us enough that these things go on, and if you're not directly affected, you don't understand how it may affect you. And this is how these systems continue to get more greedy, and the insanity of it continues, in my opinion.
Well, this strike that's happening now with Epling is the backlash of that. This is of course, people are not making decent wages. I mean, I'm in a different union, and my wages are still not that great, as we were discussing earlier. The cost of living is rising here in Iceland. It's insane. And our paychecks are not going up with it, which is scary, and it's sad because you have rent. Everyone knows rent now is insane. My rent is 130,000 Icelandic krona from my pay. That's just rent. Not. I actually went and put was it diesel in my tank, and I was already at I was between half and 3/4 full, and this is at the beginning of last month, I think, or the middle month. I was like, I'll just fill up my tank, thinking it should be 5,000-6,000, maybe 8. That total to fill up my tank from, let's say, half was over 13,000 krona. Whereas last year when I bought my car, 13,000 would have filled it from E to full.
Yeah.
Period. So when I paid that, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And not even, and I'm thinking, what is 13,000 if I'm already on E? Probably nothing.
See, now this is where I think we're at a breaking point. We're at a turning point, and the onus has always been on the working class. It's always been to shame the working class. You're not working hard enough, which is such a load of crock. And it's like, if you talk to the average person, they're working plenty enough, but everyone has that self-talk that's negative about themselves. So these people who have enough money, they have plenty, they have more than enough, they have more than their lifetime requires, are able to get away with this stupid talking point that you're not working hard enough or you are too greedy, which is just really put a mirror in front of your face. It pisses me off to no end that is allowed to continue, and that even some people who are working class buy that BS. You got to look into it, and people aren't smart enough and thinkers enough, in my opinion, to really understand what's being done. They don't understand the systems. They are too comfortable, and it seems like everything would have to break the hell down for anything to change. Like you're saying that this thing that's happening with Eplink now is a result of blah blah blah, but it's little too late, in my opinion. It's like, should have seen that coming. Like when they changed our working hours, they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna cut the working day from 40 to 32. That didn't work for shift workers. That worked for office workers. And like the union agreed to that. And it was like, did anyone really look into that detail-wise? Because what happened is it really diminished a lot of people's checks. You were supposed to technically get the same amount of money but work less, and that was supposed to be work-life balance, better for you, blah, blah, blah. But really it just took money out of people's pockets. And they saw that they got away with that, and in my opinion, they just went ahead and they're now this guy who's in charge of the SA, whatever. Yeah, I don't even like to say his name because I could see it in his face, but he just does not give two rats ass. Whether you have enough money to fill your tank, you got to decide if you're going to buy medicine. This stuff is old. This is the stuff that I read about in history books in the United States as to why so many regulations came into play after, the Great Depression. People, old people had no dignity. There was no dignity. Farmers, people who worked all their life, had their farms sold from out under them because of the speculation and the prices rising beyond reason, without reason, of like stocks and things because of buybacks and stuff like that. And government officials being corrupt. Now, that was supposed to be a noble thing to be in public service, but it's become a selfish thing. It's like, if I'm in public service, I can do a favor for this business guy and then get a job after I'm out of public service. I don't have to really care about what the voters want. I just have to care about what this guy in the suit is going to give me. And then after, it's like there's no integrity anymore. And that's all over the world. It's just all over the world. It's like there's an insanity about making money. Like that's the only thing in life. That's the only goal in life. That's the only measure of success. And we all buy into it. So it's not like, they're totally to blame. We all kind of look up to these people. And, even the whole self-made billionaire BS, like Did anybody really look at how these guys got started? Bill Gates, his mother called Hewlett Packard to help her son start it. I mean, give me a fucking break. Most people, I see immigrants coming here who really have nothing, like no one to give them, anything and work. That's self-made. These guys who come from rich families, are supposed to be noble and honorable, and some are. I'm not going to paint a broad brush, but there's more than enough to make that stereotype stick. Mm-hmm. And that's the issue. I've met business owners in Iceland here who care about their business, and had the privilege of working for a couple, and some that I've worked for could care less. Like when you have your workers telling you, hey, this is how maybe we could do this to make it better, because they care about their job. The immigrants who work in this country care about what they do. They grew up with values. They care about the work they do. And if they see that you don't give a crap, what makes you think they're going to give a crap? The level of service will go through the freaking toilet. And, there's no sense of that here in Iceland, as far as I can see. There's like I said, there's a couple of businesses and business owners that I know that really care about what they do, quality, and building something instead of just building something to take the money out, so I can be, look like I'm a fake, Elon Musk. And what I would say is take all these business guys who want to make $1 billion in a country of 300,000 and go into a bigger country. Take your riches, take your smart ass, go to a bigger country, build something there, see how well you survive. But take a country of 300,000 people and milk them dry. It's like, I don't even know what to say about that.
They can't, because, the thing in Iceland is, as we see, I think it should be said that a lot of what's happening is systemic. There's not just this one person in SA that's, keeping things in place. There's enough blame for every person in management to cop. Mm-hmm. This is not just like one person lording over everyone. This is all systemic as well. And the reason why I think they're not going to go to a bigger country and try to do the same stunts they're pulling here is because they don't have the family strings in bigger countries.
There you go.
They can't pull from banks in bigger countries like they can here in Iceland and then dump a kennetala and piss off somewhere.
Yeah, but Sante, I thought these were smart people. I thought these were, people with the, get up and go. These are not lazy people now.
What is it that Michelle Obama said? The people that are sitting at that table are not as smart as you think. And you and I both know, as people who have done jobs that they call unskilled, that we both know you need a skill for. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to time manage. When you're at the front counter how things work, you know how to make things run smoothly so that you get through a lunch shift, a dinner shift, a breakfast shift. Mm-hmm. We know how to do that.
Yep.
Whereas your management comes in at 11, 12, they get to leave at 3 to go get their kid, call you, oh, can you come in? No, this is my time off. Well, we really got to pull together.
Oh, yeah.
Then
I've heard that talk.
This is what we get. So this is not just, first of all, it's not us being lazy. That's bullshit. I stopped believing that, because always the person who works the hardest is called the laziest when they put their foot down.
Yep.
This is just what happens. Mm-hmm. So these people are not as smart as we think. They have resources that we don't have. Mm-hmm. Just how they say it's not about what you know, it's who you know. I don't have strong connections to rich Icelandic families.
If you ask me, it's anti-patriotic. This is a small country. 2 million people came through this country. I can imagine the money that was generated. And if Icelanders, I don't even know how Icelanders sit and put up with that. If, I am a citizen that, I came and decided to be a citizen, and mainly because my children are citizens here, if you want to be honest, okay? And I have a thing within me as a father to want to have a society better for my children. So I don't want to hear any BS about me becoming a citizen. I really don't. And the general thing in Iceland is you're not still one of us. Look, I've worked, paid, sweat, blood in this country. So I feel I have a damn right to speak and talk about patriotism. And my children are Icelandic, so I don't want to, if you have any problem with that, look in the mirror, talk to yourself. That being said, I feel this upper class within Iceland who takes the resources and riches of this country for self-gain are anti-patriotic. They care nothing about this country. They always tout, speaking Icelandic in their pride. They have no pride when they want to destroy the infrastructure. They don't even care about what's going on as far as infrastructure in this country. And the people who helped build this country, not all of them are blonde and blue-eyed, and so they don't even have respect enough for these people who come into this country. They can't even look a lot of them in the eye. It's like you want to have this serf class and all the things that, is held true in all, these church and people going to church and Fetterman. It's all bullshit, if you ask me. I can't stand the hypocrisy. Everybody wants to think like they're religious or they're, good people. There's very few good people, the truth be told. You leave this country. I mean, I have been received better by immigrants in this country than a lot of Icelanders in this country. And I can count on my hands the Icelanders who have welcomed me and actually appreciate the fact that I'm here. Mm-hmm. It's a small country. I come from a country of 300 million, and I appreciated every immigrant that came in because they made the United States richer, literally. And I understood that. I was taught that. This country doesn't teach anything of value that's going to help the children become better citizens, in my opinion. And I know someone I'm related to very closely works in the school system. I worked in the school system. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't surprise me that you have this. This country was on the collapse, basically, after 2018, 2016? I don't even remember anymore. The collapse of this country was done by who? Was it by people who look like me? Was it done by immigrants? No, it was the class that's doing the same shit that they're doing right now. And, people have the nerve to look cross-eyed at me. The ones who are going to sink this country don't look like me, don't even have the power to do anything. So looking in the mirror needs to be done. And I'm afraid people do not want to do that. And I'm afraid that this country will be in a terrible, terrible shape with the direction it's heading. Instead of taking certain principles of life and putting it into practice. Money is not everything. And when everybody does better, this is the other thing. When everybody does better financially, everybody does better, even the rich. If you look at economic history, especially if you look at the United States, there have been times, like in the 60s, in the 50s, the country of the United States grew to be a mega economic power. And I said, gee, that's, of course, because, America, blah, 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 America number one, blah, blah, blah. Where did all that shit come from? That was like unions were strong. And the richest people in the country were taxed at a rate of about 90%. And they were still freaking rich. And these people complain about paying a little bit in taxes? Everybody did well. You're able to put your kids through school. You're able to put your money into local businesses that then put their kids through school. You were able to pursue things that you wanted to pursue because maybe you weren't meant to be someone who cleans rooms in a hotel. Maybe you're smarter than that. And I say that specifically because I know a woman she's practically a chemist, but she cleans hotel rooms. Mm-hmm. And these are kinds of people, in the United States, we had people who were working in McDonald's, came from other countries, one of them whom was a doctor. And it's like, you think you know people? The arrogance. It's like, I don't really, at this point, spiritually I've grown, I feel, myself. But I can see very clearly. I've seen ugliness inside of myself, and I've been able to exercise that. And because it's not for anything to say, oh, look at me, but because it's a better way to live your life. It's more peaceful. But when you get to a certain point when money is your whole thing, you lose something, which is why the Bible says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. And heaven not being la la la, but to get to a place of peace. You know, they identify themselves as being this thing instead of being human.
I would say I think that's because even here in Iceland, we still have the people that are working class, just like you and I, but they are still, what was it, the temporarily embarrassed billionaires. You know, they're on their way.
I like that.
They're on their way to being right up there. You know, this is just temporary. I'm not going to be working this job forever. You will be working under me at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You still need to have this work ethic. You need to work hard. But me, I'm passing through.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be here for long. So I think this is everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's like, you know, I'm the next entrepreneur, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's no such thing as you working these jobs that we have until you are a millionaire.
Mm.
It's not possible. The amount of money it takes to make $1 million and save $1 million and live at the same time. Which if you're just saving your money.
If you look at your life, it's a short life. We don't live a long period of time. In the United States, it's like people never think about, you know, when you're young, you don't think about retirement or whatnot. But they were talking about raising the retirement age to 70. And I was like, what the hell do you think the life expectancy of a human being is? In the United States, I think it's 76, but it's dropped lately. So you work.
I wonder why.
You know, but it's like nobody connects the dots to these things, you know? It's like, yeah, you work all your life. You'll have 6 years. I knew 2 guys who worked their whole life, 2 older gentlemen, when I worked in the States, and I worked for a utility. And these guys were just the salt of the earth. These were like, you know, give you the shirt off their back kind of guys. Hardworking ethic, you know, and it was good to work around these kind of people, you know, loyal to their company, which companies don't give a shit anymore. But these men worked their whole life, literally worked their whole life, took little vacation, always came in, you know, finally got to retire, and both of them died within a year after they retired. I'll never forget that. I will never in my life forget that. It broke my heart because one of them was telling me what he was going to do, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you worked your whole life, you blood, sweat, and tears for about a year of just doing right?
Of enjoying your life.
And these rich
it is horrible.
Want to kill Social Security in the United States. It's like, oh man.
I mean, they raised the age of retirement in France. They are now striking. I appreciate them for this. I think as someone who works in tourism here in Iceland, always, I see this. And this is why I will say I will never stay at a company just because you should have like this really vast work history and be really strong. And I always see a lot of Americans who are in their 60s, 70s coming here. They're like, oh, I just retired, or it's a big birthday, and, you know, I've always wanted to come. And I know 3 cases of people coming here for, like, that retirement vacation. They die here. Absolutely not. To me, this is insane that you finally get to leave the country, you're doing things you want to do, and you die. I'm like, there has to be more than life, you know, to life than this. And this is very common here in tourism. We had a guest who, she had cancer. And this was her trip to, you know, do everything. And she missed the bus, and we didn't know. And we were like, yeah, you missed the bus. And she just like had this moment where she was like off, and I was like, oh, we were like, well, you'll know, you can come tomorrow or whatever. And she'd spoken to my colleague, and he called the bus and had them come back and get her. And she was like, there is no coming back. You know, like, there's no tomorrow. And I was like, wow, this is some people's lives where you were at this age and there were no vacations. You raised your kids, you worked until you were in your 70s, and you finally get to have, like you said, maybe a year. And also another thing is you were in your 70s. I'm 28. I have the time I can wake up at 5 a.m, go on this trip, you know, come back for the weekend. I'm tired. At 75, I'm not doing that. At 75, I want to be at a slow pace. I want to have a good time. I want to have more than a year to enjoy, your grandkids, maybe your great grandkids. Like this is, to me, there's there
Well, here's the thing,
has
though.
to be more to life than that.
There definitely is, but even now, it's like when I moved to this country. Let's get real. When I moved to this country, I worked every holiday and every weekend. I had to, because I had to take my weekends. I had to sacrifice my weekends so that I could be home. Take 2 days in the middle of the week to be home, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to afford childcare. Okay, so every holiday, I remember coming in after my shift, and there's a picture of me in my uniform from working at one restaurant, asleep with my nephew on my chest. Like they had finished. I think it was Thanksgiving. They had all finished. I came in time for dessert, and got to see my young nephew, and was playing with him and fell asleep. And then he fell asleep on my chest. And I'll never forget that picture, because that was my life in the States. I worked, and I was young, and when my Icelandic wife had our kid, my son hardly knew who the hell I was, because I was never home. When he went to bed, I wasn't home. When he went, into daycare, I was, I was asleep. And it's like, vacation, really? Okay, you can take a vacation. You won't get paid for it. Oh, gee, that's great. I still have bills. It's like the financial system's like the mob. It reminds me of Goodfellas. It's like, oh, there was a terrible flood. No, fuck you, pay me. Oh, your mother died. Yeah, fuck you, pay me. That's what it's like, And then I just got a notice from the bank. It's like, oh, we're going to be raising your loan. All loans are going up now. The rates are going up, so fuck you, pay me. Oh, there's strikes going on. Yeah, you having trouble. Oh, they cut your time. Yeah, well, fuck you, pay me. And as a matter of fact, pay me more than that at this point. It's like, I don't know at what point they think people they really think people are stupid and sheep, and they might have a point. Being simply led to the slaughter. And if it doesn't touch you just yet, they have it in their mind. Well, it doesn't affect me. Well, let me tell you something. Everything is connected. It will eventually touch you. The war in Ukraine, yeah, you're not in that part of Europe right now, but you don't think it affects you? You don't think it affects the markets? You don't think it affects migration? The United States fucked with all these countries in the world, changing governments and shit like that. And now all those people are in destabilized dictatorships and shit, and they're leaving the countries, and they're coming to other countries, and like, oh, well, that shit didn't affect me, but now it does, I guess. Yeah, it does, because everything's connected, genius. It's like, the water being poisoned, all these regulations. Stupid-ass Donald Trump was like, we'll get rid of 2 regulations for every one. And now they had a train disaster in the United States.
In East Palestine.
That was preventable. The NTSB did an investigation. See, this is the same shit that went on before the Great Depression. This is what businesses were doing. No regulation, children working till, no child labor laws, let's do that. Why did children go to school, And it's like, that shit doesn't affect us. No, genius, it will affect you. And it's like, I don't even understand what they think. Oh, you're going to make your money, you're going to have a good time, you're going to go on vacation, and you think the people that you're going on vacation, these underpaid people, are really happy to be there, you're going to have a great time? Hello, the people who load your bags onto the planes and stuff like that, you keep wanting to fuck them over and, put more pressure on them financially, and they're really going to do a good job. Can we wake up for a second? I mean, there is literally, it's insanity to me. And the people who are sitting on a ton of cash, plenty of cash, look, can't get rid of it fast enough. Apple became a $1 trillion company. That shit, when I was growing up, I remember looking at movies of futuristic stuff. 2001. And obviously, you know what 2001 was. Have you ever seen the movie 2001?
I don't think so.
We're not as that advanced as it depicts in that movie. That's just what I want to say. And, all the things that I saw, like futuristic, blah, 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 they talked about, I love Blade Runner and all these kind of movies, and it was talking about $1 trillion company. And I remember as a kid thinking, that's insane. That's impossible. It's like $1 trillion. That's like saying gazillion, gabillion. It's like it didn't make any sense. But that shit is reality now. And people think like, yeah, trillion, no problem. 10 billion. Guy makes $10 billion a year. One guy makes $10 billion a year. Yeah.
He doesn't make that.
What's the issue?
He steals that from people.
You don't make a billion. I'm sorry, you're correct. You do not make $1 billion. Bezos did not make, you give a lot of credit to one individual. Mm-hmm. It's like, this motherfucker is not Jesus Christ. He ain't walking on water, and he ain't that fucking brilliant. Steve Jobs, for his vision, yeah, but he wasn't the motherfucker who designed Apple. It was like, there was John Ives, there was a whole team of people, and people always seem to forget that. Forget the people underneath, It's like, that's a whole company, not one person. And that's the effed up thing in society's mind. We always put the spotlight on that one individual. It's like, look, if the dude didn't take out the garbage, okay?
It's because I think the negative is on the masses and the Messiah is on the one.
There you go.
Meaning, like in the U.S., like you said, we have the U.S., not we, because I ain't do shit. I shouldn't say that. I'm not claiming that. The United States has destabilized many Central Latin American countries, and then those people come to our borders, and they, like they said, they want a better life. It's not safe, and Americans will look at them and go fix your country, and I'm like, no, you need to turn around and go, why did you fuck them for guns, drugs, women, and children? Oh, yeah. That's not the reality of what happened. But it's so, and I also think, of course, this is something that in a sense can be, too complex for some people to understand, where it's easier to be like, these people that look different than me, that I think are beneath me, they're bad. Because they're coming here and I don't know, I still don't understand that, they're taking stuff away from me. They're taking jobs that I don't want. This is not true. There's that whole rhetoric. So they, these people are the demonic ones. They're bad. They're evil. They're rapists. They're whatever. Like you said, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, whoever, they're the Messiah. They made Apple. Everything is so great. He's so smart. Elon Musk, I don't know why they ride this man like a carousel. He's a self-made millionaire and so. And it was just, I was watching some clip. And it's so weird because they were in New York. And, Elon Musk, his family, they own, I'm going to use that term loosely, was it diamond mines or emerald mines in South Africa? Yeah. And this guy was like, he's dressed very casual. And the guy's asking, what are you doing? He was like, I have stakes in a mining company in South Africa for my family, 40%. And he was like, yeah, I have a net worth of 400 billion or something. And I was like, you people, you first of all, this, like I said, it's not possible for you to go and work and save to $400 billion. Yeah. It's physically. Yeah.
There's no work you can do to get paid that amount.
To get paid $400 billion. So right there, this is, you're stating that, somewhere along the line, someone is being exploited in what you're doing. You don't care. You don't care. And my thing is, if you know that, you are never going to be someone who I believe you're going to morally come to your senses of what is happening here.
No, not at all.
And of course, I think a part of it is because you were always, these kinds of people, I'm not in their world, they don't see anything wrong with that. This is their norm to have this kind of life.
I'll interject because it's not that they are necessarily bad people.
I never said they were bad.
Okay.
I said morally. They don't. For them, this is their norm. Right. It is the norm to be in a family of all your friends. My dad owns this gold mine. This is for them. This is normal to think that you can work. My dad made $20 billion last year. He made that, not the people in the mines. Not you, not him. My dad made that when this is not true.
And I think majority of working class people don't really care if someone's rich. That's kind of, everybody wants to kind of aspire to be. And it's not really that people are necessarily bad or anything. It's just that's the system and that's how it works. And you know who exposed it? Donald Trump. Donald Trump exposed very well how the system works. He inherited money from his father. He lost everything. If you look into his business dealings, he wasn't a genius businessman, but that didn't matter because the image of him being a genius businessman was put out there. Even the book that he wrote, he didn't even write. So, The Art of the Deal, yeah, look it up. So it's an illusion. It's an illusion. But the thing about all of this is, and what's going on with the unions right now, is just a matter of how much are you going to take. They don't want to give up anything. It's insane, but they don't want to give up anything. I don't even know how they view life, to amass an ungodly amount of money and then die, because you're going to die. You're not taking it with you. So what's the point of your hoarding? What's the point of you having 2, 3 Teslas? Who are you impressing? Yeah, great. It's all going to rot. Really, what is the point? To be seen? Okay, we see you.
Because this is their reality. That's their reality.
But it's always those. This is why it's written that the meek shall inherit the earth, because they don't really. It's like life becomes really simple, in a way. You don't need that much. You live a short period of time. All the guys who have all that money now, they're all going to die, and their families are going to argue over their inheritance and what they get, to just continue to cycle, to be seen, to be exclusive. Yeah, big deal. It's such a weird thing, in the terms of living and being alive, to want, that's what you want.
To be honest, if this is the earth we're going to inherit, I'll pass on it. Because, the billionaires are the ones who are definitely screwing it up. In terms of, like you said, the thing in East Palestine, Ohio. People are now on the internet. They're talking about, of course, the people that are living there have a different reality than what they're showing us on the news. Because on the news, they're saying, you can drink the water, it's safe. And of course, they are there. And we should all be mindful. Flint still doesn't have clean water. So that tells you something. Period. If they're telling you to drink the water, don't touch it. Don't be gullible. Because it's not true. They're having, the reactions in the water. It tastes different. The rain, the cloud, it looks horrible there. The quality of the water, the rain, everything is affected. And they're telling you it's safe.
But see, let's get to why that happened. And when we talk about the unions and what's going on now, the reason that happened is because the rail companies in the United States used to have about 1 million workers, and now it's down to 200,000. So they got rid of all those workers. Who did they get rid of? The safety inspectors. And why are they important? Because they detect if there's issues or problems. Now, this train that derailed actually had all the triggers happen, but there was nobody to really follow up on it. And they're making profit off of suffering, which, if you ask me, if there's such a thing as karma, God, I would hate to be an executive at a company. But actually, their stock went up after this. Believe it or not, their stock went up. And that's the insanity of it. It's like the NTSB investigators said, yeah, this could have been prevented. Everything was there. As a matter of fact, the reason why it happened was we cut those regulations that would have prevented it from happening in the first place. They didn't allow those kind of materials to be transported. The power in the chemicals on that train was 10 times the Hiroshima bomb, and they're traveling through towns and cities with women, children, families, all these people that politicians seem to care about. This full of shit. Okay, and if God, if I sold my soul like that, God, I would be in fear of hellfire. They obviously believe in no God.
But why aren't they in fear, Jeffrey? What did I just say?
They don't believe in there's anything after this life. So you have to have that belief to believe that it doesn't matter how badly I F over people, because it'll never come back to me. I'm just going to get as much as I can get. Who gives a damn about anybody else? I don't really care what these people are saying. They don't affect my life. And when you're rich, to a degree, they're right. They build around them. Look, there's some communities in Iceland. I still can't believe this. It's only 300,000 people. It's like my freaking hometown. But there are communities where every house is like 100 million Icelandic krona. There's nobody foreign living there. There's nobody at a certain level living there. So, yeah, I don't really have to deal with them. When you're out in public, they don't even look at anyone who looks different or even sounds different. Or you speak a little, they don't even have to look at you. Just ignore you. I can't even tell you how many times I work at a place where I'm there for service and I get looked through. And one of the most damaging things you can do to a person is ignore them. They've done tests on this with monkeys and babies. You know, what happens to you ignore? It's a weird thing, but we're social creatures. We're human beings. So when you ignore and look through someone like they're doing, that like what's happening in this Eblinken essay battle, blah, 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 when you're ignoring people, that's a kind of violence because it's against what we are as human beings. You're supposed to kind of like absorb life. You know, life is meant for you to enjoy, not to ignore. Doesn't make any sense. But there's a culture that I think encourages this. There's a culture that seems to think that, yeah, this is the right way to go. Like, I just don't get it. I mean, immigrants, like I said, the cultures that I have encountered, not Icelandic, have been warm, welcoming, talkative. Everybody has their issues, but for God's sakes, they knew something about civility, something about social interaction, something about like greeting a stranger. Like if you go to certain countries, they greet you, you know, like, hey, welcome, you know, hey, this is because you're representing, you know, and they're not getting paid. You know, in Iceland, if you go to some, because, you know, if you're a guest in this country, you know, you go to a hotel here, they're getting paid to say, oh, go and dine, oh, welcome, mm-hmm. Hey, come in. If they're not getting paid, there's a social thing that's like, you know, whatever. Yeah. It's only 300,000 people. It should be the exact opposite, you would think. Everybody's almost related, for God's sakes. And everybody walks around like they're strangers. And like you treat people bad, and it's like, I know your fucking uncle. You know? It's like you're looking at me like, what are you doing here? Motherfucker, I'm related to you. You know, and that is amazing to me. It's amazing to me that this idiot, nope, I take that back, rewind it, that the guy who's in charge,
I don't take it back.
Who's arguing,
I will say it.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to elevate myself here. The guy who's in charge of SA, I wonder how much family he has in Iceland. I wonder what he thinks.
Do we have to wonder? Because I'm 100% sure there's an app. We don't have to ask questions. Matter of fact, we could probably ask our producer.
Like, what does
I'm sure she knows.
Like, what does he think?
I don't know. I don't know that.
You know, it's like his extended family. Are they all rich? And if they all are, like, isn't that enough to stop? No? It's like, I don't know,
Why would they stop, Jeffrey? This is what I mean when I say morally these people they're different. And like you said about, oh my gosh, you wouldn't want to be one of these people that sold their soul, like for the train in East Palestine. And so my thing is, one of my big qualms with all churches is the money aspect. I don't hate anyone who's religious. I don't like, for example, I don't like mega churches. I don't like these preachers that have like 40 Bentleys and they want you to tithe this much. To me, this is not. God
did not meant for them to drive around in a Pinto. Okay?
We won't get on this on camera.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I have no qualms with you being like good at your job and the people in your church wanting to support you. Like, of course, but that you don't need a $400 million house.
Okay.
And this is how much you make a year. To me, that is insane. Okay. That's once again, that's immoral. And you are supposed to be a person of God, as you say. There's nothing wrong with making a living for yourself, of course. But once again, you as a preacher cannot work to $400 million.
Okay, so we know. So this is like the society. You're talking about different parts, and it all seems like it's the same kind of thing. Let's go back
They're all connected.
Everything's connected. It's everything connected. So we have politicians, we have businesses, and we have workers. We have a 3-point triangle. We have politicians, businesses, and workers. Now, each one is supposed to be different. However, it seems to me one is connected to the other, and the other is left out there in the cold to kind of just fend for itself. And am I mistaken, but wasn't government supposed to be a conglomeration of the people's interest? When did it become like business interests. Like, businesses have their fiduciary responsibility to make money, which is fine. That's what they are created to do. They are money-making entities. That's all they're concerned about. So we shouldn't look to them to solve issues, problems like charity and all that shit. No, that's not really their function, okay? The government comes in, provides, on behalf of everyone, the roads, the infrastructure, all this stuff, okay? On behalf of, and we agree, as in our taxes, to pay towards those things. So where did the money start being directed towards the businesses and away from the people? I see streets in this country that are, okay.
We're allowed to curse on this show, right?
Okay,
right? There's shit. Where is our money going? We pay road tax, twice a year? Mine was 27,000.
It's getting more and more expensive.
It was. I think I did 56,000
when you're losing your wages.
Hello. What's like? For example, we need to get somebody from the Icelandic Road Association on this show because I want to know. I just want to know how things are structured. Like, I mean, we had this discussion, me and my colleagues, because we're trying to get to work in the morning and pothole here and this, and once again, that also affects you financially. Mm-hmm. If you done paid road tax $56,000 and then now you hit something and your car is messed up,
there you go.
That's expensive.
And the roads aren't plowed, and I've seen more accidents and dings and bents in the thing because the road wasn't plowed because they wait until freaking it's finished. And well, I'll get into that later. And hey, before you say anything, I plowed for 3 years in the United States in all kinds of vehicles, so I know what the hell I'm talking about. Come at me, because I got proof. I used to plow, I'm telling you, man, I used to plow big-ass parking lots to little condominium associations. I got out and shoveled the sidewalks at 6 and 5 in the morning. My ex could tell you I got up at 3 in the morning because they were just thinking it was going to snow, and we had that place cleared. I worked 24-hour shifts sometimes to make sure it was clear so that people could walk into their businesses without slipping and breaking their leg, and old people can do the same in the administration. I don't see that at all here. And I'm like, and they talk about Iceland as far as taxes. I'm like, where the hell are these taxes going? And then, is this a big ploy? Should we privatize everything? And if we get to privatize, if they start bringing up privatization, attention Icelandic citizens, I'm American, I'm telling you, they start privatizing things, just look at the Iraq War and how much they privatized that. It wasn't just the United States Army there.
You mean the war for democracy?
The war for democracy. All right? Afghanistan,
to liberate those people
Afghanistan, where
free?
$2 billion was spent of Americans' taxpayers' money, went to big corporations, made tremendous profits. And have we forgotten? Did I miss the news mishear because I kept hearing record profits, like year after year. Never heard record wages. Never heard anything about wages going up. I heard an argument against having a $15 minimum wage when an economic person looked at it. More economists looked at it and said, gee, based on the productivity of the workers in the United States, the minimum wage should be $20 an hour based on the productivity. Something about that makes sense when you hear record profits, $10 billion, $50 billion.
And what did people fight about when the discussion was on, we want $15 minimum wage? What did they fight about? They said, you want to make $15 flipping burgers when I make this? Yeah. Instead of saying, okay, they will make $15 an hour for working at McDonald's. I'm only making $18 as an EMT. Why am I not making $35?
Yeah, see, that was the thing.
This is what I mean when I say you demonize the masses. No, outrage. You should not make that. You should do, I deserve that. I'm like, we all literally deserve more than 15. They're stiffing us on 15.
It's this outrage society created. Social media has a hand in that. The way the news is reported, since it's all owned by the same guys who really have an agenda. Fox News, it just came out, they had all the behind the scenes of all these reporters at Fox News agreeing that everything they were reporting on was bullshit and they didn't agree with it. But, it keeps the revenue high because people love to be angry about shit. I love to be angry about shit, and so that's where the money is. There's no money in, Sante, you look very nice today, and I wish you the best. I will do what I can to help you. No, there's no money in that. This is the way the society is. It's like, you know what, Sante? You are anti everything that I think I stand for. and therefore I'm angry. I'm going to subscribe to this channel because we talk about the same shit and blah blah blah. This is like this whole thing. Subscription model for everything too. There's a subscription model for a filter, like on your iPhone. Like if you want to put a little filter on it, there's like you can have a subscription. So how about just build something decent and put it out there and sell it? You want to get paid for putting out something continually. And this is like the model. The business model is all gone to subscription. Have you noticed that? And if you add up subscriptions, people are paying $500, a year, and maybe more in subscriptions to services that used to be where you buy it outright.
That's how you get the money. That's how you keep it coming. Also, the fee is usually small enough where when it comes out of your bank account, it's maybe not that big of a deal. But over a year, if you're paying 10 euros every month, $10 every month, that's 120 out of the year. And you're like, it's only $10. I don't need to cancel it. Like, I use it sometimes. So I don't want to cancel it now because then I'll have to sign up for it again later. And I don't know how much it's going to cost then. You spend $120 on something stupid every year. And for them, this is bank.
But the thing is, what is this blaming the people thing? It always comes out of blaming the people. Like I heard people say, why you want this smartphone or this other phone? Do you know how many things you can do with a smartphone these days? It's like when I grew up, I didn't have a fucking phone. Okay, you didn't need a goddamn phone. But these days, it's like you go to the store, boop.
It's almost a necessity.
It's almost a goddamn necessity. So what are you bitching at people for owning a phone? But this is how to get in people's mind. It's your fault. No, this is the way the system is going. This is the systems that are in place that you use. Right. So, look at third world countries. Yeah, they don't have a computer. Yeah, but they don't have a lot of other shit too. They don't need a lot of other shit in certain countries, right? So you're living in a Western country and you don't have a smartphone. You're behind the 8 ball in a lot of ways. So it's always like they get a good majority of people so blinded and dumb and emotional that they'll argue against their own best interests, which is something that in the States they talked about Democrat, Republican. Why do Republicans vote against their own best interests? Because I'm identified, right? It's my identity. And if I identify with something, I'll hold on to that to death, literally. Like, that's what I am, blah, blah, blah. Instead of like not identifying, more like, what is truth? That's really should be the thing that you want. But identity has become such a powerful thing. Like everything. That's why there's such an outrage machine online. It's like, I identify, you say something, anything, somebody's going to get offended. Somebody will get offended. Not that you can just say it and be like, the other person says, oh, that's your opinion. Okay, he's his own person. Maybe he thinks women deserve to be in the kitchen. Okay, that's an idiot position, but okay, but that's him. That's his thing. No, it's got to be, okay, we're going to sign a petition to make sure that he does not do anything in perpetuity, cannot work, cannot do. It's like, what are you going through all this drama for?
I also think this is about the scope of someone's reality. I mean, we live here in Iceland. Most of my family is like in the U.S. My mom is between the U.S. and West Africa. So people, I think they assume, I told her about the strike and everything. I was like, people are going to be out of work for 2 weeks. There's this reality that we have because we are here and, we're in the trenches, if you will. And I would say there's always someplace that is worse, of course. We're here, and there's like, how the outside world perceives Iceland, that all of these things could possibly be going on. And it makes me think of, for example, how America has this really large influence on pop culture for some reason. And I was watching it was a clip, there's a podcast, what is his name? French Brutus. I've never I don't know, I just remember seeing his name. And the girl was talking about this thing I'm sure you've seen in American movies where people will have sex with a fat girl as a joke. And he was like, I didn't think this was a real thing that people did. I thought this was just something in movies that was horrible and mean, of course. That's weird. But no one actually did it. And she was like, no, this is real. Like, people do that. And of course it's horrible. And for us, we are in the reality of, we're like, so we're struggling, we need more money. I've had people who are not from Iceland who come here, or also, we are messaging. And they're like, so I thought like Iceland was really equal and like women were just treated really well, and you kind of, you didn't have like these problems like the rest of the world. Like, what are you talking about? You're not treated well. And I'm like, well, no, I don't know where you heard this. Well, there was an article or I saw a video. I'm like, but that's not the reality of the world we are living in right now. I'm living in. So I said, just because you read an article from, maybe someone's general experience or a group of women, that doesn't mean it's true for this entire country.
Oh, yeah.
It is, we are a group of people that live here. So for me, this is definitely has to be the scope of someone's reality where we're here. I mean, we're reading the news about the strikes, about anything. What surprises me is when, for example, I know Iceland, we are a small country. People that have the perception that we are beyond, I would say, and all the atrocities of mankind. Meaning, I had a guest from Colombia who came. He stayed at my house for the weekend. This was a few years ago. We were talking about something. So it was something in the news, and he was like, someone was sexually assaulted in the news, and we were talking about it. He was like, what? That happened here? And I was like, yeah. Why? I was like, why are you so surprised? He was like, I didn't think that happened in Iceland. Like, you're such a progressive country. Like, how does that happen? How does that exist? And I was like, so I want to know why you think that doesn't exist. We have people here, period.
We have people here.
And we know that this happens as, this is an attempt to exert control quite often. This is not just about hurting this person. This is about controlling, I'm taking something from you. So I was like, we have people here, period. It surprises me that you think any group of people is beyond that.
That's a good point. It's perception that really, perception of anything that really holds sway. And I think, again, if we go back to what's going on right now, employment-wise, there's that perception of, well, these guys are business guys, so they should know what's good. And there's that perception. And there's a perception of, well, these low-paid workers, they're just complaining, like they got it pretty good. Like, they should be happy and thankful for blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you should be happy and thankful that they're working in the country because you're only 300,000 people. In the United States, we're 300 million, but there are certain jobs Americans will not go near. And who fills those jobs? Well, during the pandemic, we found out and still didn't learn a goddamn thing, how to treat people and how to just appreciate people. And in this country, it's the same damn thing. And it's like, what do you need? What do you need? Nature is already showing you how to act, what to appreciate, to be grateful and thankful. And it's not just these lower paid workers that need to be grateful and thankful. They already are. These are the people who make the least are the most generous. It always. I'm sick of seeing, give a penny for this donation, for this charitable thing. I'm like, dude, every penny I have means something. This other guy has a few thousand that
he can lose, and
he'll sneeze that away.
Fine.
He'll sneeze that away. Go ask him. But they're always asking people who make the least to give the most. And that's not the way nature even works. They are, I'm thinking of Lincoln was the argument against slavery, for God's sakes. You vile, contemptible being, you are an affront to nature and everything that's natural. You're against the natural order of things. The arrogance of men to say, what make water better? Fluoride. I think nature knows what the hell. You know what I mean? If you think about the logic behind that, right? I remember when I was a kid, they're like, we're putting fluoride in the water. And I'm like, they're putting fluoride in the water? Like, I thought water was kind of like, nature's thing. And then in the same breath, they're like, God created everything and everything was perfect. But he didn't add fluoride to the water.
But men can make everything better.
But yeah. Don't get me wrong. Technology has improved the lives of many people. And it's not an argument against technology. It's an argument against a kind of arrogance. It's like, they always they push things. And not to get too conspiratorial, but we had the corona situation that you couldn't even question you couldn't even question that. People were getting fired for questioning that. And it went against every rule that we had set up previous about vaccinations. Every safeguard. And now, you watch crime stories, right? And in a crime story, what did they say? They say, okay, we have a crime, and we have, the victim, and we have and we have this person. What would be the motive for this person to commit this crime? What would be the motive for coronavirus? I don't know, a few $100 billion for pharmaceutical companies?
They wouldn't do that. They care about us, Jeffrey. Okay,
I agree. And I am shocked that even came out of my mouth. Who am I to question $100 billion? I mean, some of the things that went. I heard that they were like blackmailing countries, like to get the virus. Like, you give up your ports, and we'll give you the virus. I mean, like, but don't. Hey, I'm just a talking head, so investigate yourselves. Like the Bible says, read for yourselves to study. Study for yourselves to show yourselves approved, which means it's up to you. It's up to us. We can't rely on people telling us what things are. And in what's going on now, we're relying on people telling us what things are, what the reality is. Look up for yourself. Again, there should not be an argument about wages in this country that had 2 million people come through the damn place, and people are arguing for wages. Like, there was a lot of money came through Iceland, okay? And Icelanders should benefit from that. Not have wait times in their hospital. Not have their hospital crumbling, their roads crumbling, and you want to promote these people who are like, we don't need to pay extra in taxes. No, it's okay that we sold the bank and our family profited and nobody else really did. Really? And, the only people who really say anything, like, I want to have other guests from our family of shows here on our show and discuss. Because, in America, if you're not American and you discuss things like this about the nation, they always pull that bullshit like, well, you're not from here, you're not the dumbass. I have a vested interest in, as long as I'm here, living, paying taxes, I have a vested interest in Iceland. As long as I live and breathe and my children breathe and live in this country, then I have every right to speak on it. But not everybody agrees with that. And to you, I say, kiss my ass, because that's the reality. And if you want to take every Icelandic person and have them fill all these jobs and kick every foreigner out, let's see what happens to all those profits.
I still think we need to have a day where all foreign people do not show up to work. I think it would be amazing.
We call it Appreciation Day.
No.
No, because
I was coming up with a name for it. Okay. In Icelandic, because that had to be the cherry on top,
It has to be in Icelandic.
I think we were coming up with like Útlendingar útidagur, like, foreigners' day out. This is our day off, and I want to see what happens.
I would like
because
to see that. That'd be interesting.
As foreign people, we are mostly doing, most of these jobs like
Those
that are
grunt
not playing
work.
these service jobs that do require skill. I would say here.
You mean there's a skill dealing with people?
In most of my tourism jobs, it's always beneficial if you speak more than one language.
Of course.
At least 3 or 4. And English and Icelandic are basic here. I don't know many Icelandic people that speak, let's
Farsi?
say, Spanish, French, Arabic. I mean, not that it's, their fault or it's a negative, but when we come in, we get these jobs where it's like, you make the bare minimum and you speak 5 languages, great. So we want you to use all of them at this job. And it's like, well, am I going to get paid for each language I know? No, you're not. So I'm just,
Be a team player.
Yeah, I'm just going to speak English. Like, that's the easiest thing for me to do. No problem by me if I don't get more. This is just, to me, how it is.
That's just greedy.
So I think we should have a day where we just don't show up.
A lot of immigrants I've met they're the most praiseworthy of Iceland. I mean, they'll sing its praises all day long. So it's not like a lack of appreciation. It's just a feeling of not being appreciated. It's because, my own special person in my life is not Icelandic and loves Iceland. There's not anything to not love about the country. And even like
except for the roads.
The general population is, I'm not sure what the hell goes on. Like if you don't know anybody from a different background, you have a weird way of dealing with someone you consider to be foreign or you perceive to be foreign, who probably knows somebody you know, but the interaction is so stilted. It's so like I literally have people look like, just if I'm in the room, I'm there to help. I'm like, go on, Diane. It's like you don't exist. Well, this would be an interesting thing. What if there were no foreigners for you to have to avert your gaze or to ignore? Like, then what? Like
a lot of places would be closed for the day. There would be a lack of, I would say, hospital. We're everywhere. Because we are literally
and
everywhere.
It's not, and don't get me wrong, it's definitely not all. It's just a large majority. It's like the times when I work and like someone ignores, I always get like somebody after that who comes up to me and says something to me in Icelandic. Like I'm literally there to help people, and they ignore me. It's like that's my job. Like you can ask me a question. Like two Icelandic people will stand and discuss something that I've just put out. Like, what is that? Yeah, and I'm standing like, you could ask me, I made it. And they will not, because it's, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't get that. I don't understand that. I will never get that. But hey, that's me. But the thing is
we have to ask them one day. I mean, we should pull just, like a random study, a random group of Icelandic people. That would be a really good study to ask, why is that? Like, is that a cultural thing? Is it?
I have not met a culture that's a thing. I have not met a culture
thing. Like what is it? Is it I don't know. I wouldn't be able to give you their answer. This is what we have to ask.
And that's the thing. It's like, and then they would say, well, you're just not trying hard enough. It's like, you learn the language. I'm trying. If you spoke to me and said hello, and like, I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable coming up to you, hey, go on, Diane. It's like, what the fuck? It's like
those are lazy excuses.
But no, this is the thing in my company. It's like, oh, speak Icelandic, and I thought about it. I said, you know what? Yes. When I came to this country, I expected to learn and speak the language. Speak the language. And I'm like, most people avoid talking to me. They avoid even any kind of like interaction. Like if I look at somebody and it's like I want to go and die. Well, after a while, you don't say anything. And that's I've seen immigrants that I know who've come recently. They work. And they're very open. They're very excited to interact and be, a part of what's going on in the society. And after like a few months, they're like, and then Icelanders will look at them and say, why aren't they smiling? Why are they so like that? It's like, dude, look in the mirror. This is how it is. This is what happens when you go places. This is the look you see on people's faces. It's the happiest country in the world, but you would not be able to tell it on the looks on a lot of people's faces. But the Icelanders I have met.
I said that when I walked in here earlier. I was like, what's wrong? I was like, no one is smiling.
No one's
smiling. Okay?
I guess things are just so good that it inverts. I don't know. But, speak the language. It's like, yeah, but you got to have a vested interest in it. You have to feel invested in it. And you're made to feel not a part of it. And it's a purposeful thing, even when you work. And then they're like, we would promote you, but you don't speak the language. It's like, you never talk to me. You don't even have meetings with people who are low-paid workers. Like, you don't even say, like, hvernig gengur? Golden Diane.
What doesn't make
anything.
sense to me is how often, like you said, they're like, oh, you don't speak Icelandic. I think I told you when I worked at a certain restaurant here that I will not name. My assistant manager, she didn't speak Icelandic.
Okay.
But she was white, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Oh, well,
and I was the only one. Yeah, I was the only one actually in the whole restaurant when the manager wasn't there that spoke Icelandic. And often people would come in and they would speak to her in Icelandic, and she'd be like, "I'm sorry, can you speak English?" Or some people, "No, I only want to speak Icelandic." Or, "Why don't you speak Icelandic?" And I come out and I go, so no one here speaks Icelandic, and I'm like,
I have
You know,
never.
I'm here to help you, like you said.
Yes,
I'm here
right?
to help you.
Yeah.
I speak Icelandic. Oh, okay. And so sometimes see the, oh, I'm sorry, or oh, you do. I'm like, yeah. Okay. So I'm like, and this particular person, I had no problems with her that she didn't speak Icelandic, but our manager was like, I didn't know you spoke Icelandic so well. I said, I told you I spoke Icelandic. I told you I'm not like, very efficient, but like we have regulars that we come in, I can carry a conversation. And she was like, oh, I wish I knew that. And I was like,
But even that, it's like it's used against people a lot. But the one thing I really do like and enjoyed was that everybody speaks really well English. It's like I remember talking to one person. It's an older person too. I was like, Jesus, she's been around. She's like, yeah, I used to live in the States. I lived in North Carolina, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, yeah, shit. And most of the doctors I know studied in the States. Very good. I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't like to speak English because I'm not very good. It's like, dude, your English is a lot better than my Icelandic. Let's be real. It's like, be proud of that shit. I would be ecstatic if I knew really well another language. In the States, there's the arrogance. In the States, they don't give a shit to learn anything. Like, if they learn another language, it's because somebody in their family is actually an immigrant, and they kind of want to learn.
Or you had to learn it in high school. We had our mandatory second language, and only, like, for example, New York City, only, like, certain high schools had, I guess, exotic languages, like Mandarin or German. The basic ones were Spanish, French, and Italian.
Yeah, there you go.
And that was it. And learning, like, Arabic or Mandarin was like, wow, that was a really big deal.
But let's get back on topic, and we'll end it there. I guess. It's about respect. That's what I think. There's no respect for those who have made a fortune off of foreigners working and coming to visit this country, have made their fortune, and are unwilling to give back to those who helped them make it. And that includes the Icelandic citizenry who's had to put up with freaking tour buses going through their neighborhoods, their roads getting destroyed because of said heavier traffic. Every day is gridlock, which wasn't the case when I moved here. Your hospitals, wait times. I'm particularly say something. My family member was sick, and fortunately enough, if one of the nurses hadn't noticed that there was something extremely wrong, I don't even know if my daughter would be here. And that pisses me off to no end. And the reason is because of starving a system. And I believe that there might be starving certain structures in this country for the benefit of a few. And if they ever go to privatizing the hospitals in this country, you need to put whoever brings that up, put them on a boat and do a Viking funeral with them. And I am not joking, because in the United States, the healthcare system is so bad that people are dying because of the choice of either not being able to afford medication, not wanting to take an ambulance when they're bleeding to death on the road. And if that is the idea of capitalism, take it and shove it straight up your ass. You are an insane psychopath, because there's nothing that's going to be worth somebody losing their life for you to make a couple extra bucks. And if you don't think that's the case, you are blindly mistaking. These people in these different movements who are arguing for the benefit of the majority of people, not just the few so-called business leaders, and you think that they're the problem, you need to have your head knocked up against the wall, because you are missing something fundamental that is so common sense that you have lost your way. These people who are arguing on behalf of a large group of people who are underrepresented and have no power, these people are not the problem. These people would not have a problem if others did not make the problem. And those others are those who seem to think they don't owe anybody anything, but we owe them everything. Icelandic citizens, workers do not owe your life's blood, your free time to make a few extra bucks. One of the great things about this country was that I was able to take time and spend time with my kids, because family is the foundation of society. And when you start pulling at those strings and those safety nets, which is what's happening in this country, and people are working themselves to death, you're not doing anything for anyone. You're not helping society in general. There's nothing, when you don't pay what is fair to pay, and you rely on the people who make the least to pay the most. And, when we pay our taxes, that's, like Sante was saying, it's, after I pay my living expenses. This is not extra. I'm not buying an extra house. I'm not buying a summer cottage. I'm not buying an extra Tesla. This is just after paying what I need to survive, that I'm lacking, that I don't have anything after. So I can't contribute to society in the way I would want to, whether it means going for more education, being able to afford that, or, putting into local businesses, patronizing the local businesses. What happens if the tourism dries up for whatever reason? Natural disaster, fuel
COVID
prices,
was an example.
COVID, the systems here would not survive because you don't have that extra flow. What would be good is to make it so that all Icelandic citizens paid a decent living wage and can contribute to the businesses and thrive. Not that just a few
during COVID.
COVID was
No. I was thinking we had during COVID, like you said. How do we pay? I was like, we had Ferðagjöf, and how much? That was like something small
like 10,000
that they gave everyone twice to support local businesses. And to me, that says, we don't make enough during this whole predicament to go.
Say that again.
You only gave us 10,000 twice to go somewhere and like give them something. This little bit of money that you had to give us for them to just be drip fed something. Mm-hmm. It's insane. So this means you know exactly where we are if tourism stops here, because it was COVID. Mm-hmm. This many businesses suffered around the world. Okay. Mm-hmm. But that means you know exactly where we stand. You know that we didn't have enough money to go out to, with a family who are stuck in the house. We finally get to go somewhere and have a meal. We didn't have the money to do that. Mm-hmm. So you had to give it to us. So they know this is a systematic problem. They gave us this 10,000 was not even a Band-Aid. I can't even, a suture. This is what it was. This is a Band-Aid for a small problem that they know we have. Mm-hmm. They don't want to fix it. They are coming up with things like this to be like, oh, we're helping. This is how the government is going to assist you in small businesses. We're going to give you this money. You get to go out and spend it however you like at this list of approved places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to end it, we'll say the ball is in our court as people, as citizens, to be on the side of those who actually help within the society. The people who drive the buses, who do the garbage, who clean up the shit in the hotels and the hospitals, the people who make it a place people actually want to come. The CEOs, yes, they have a part to play, but they are not the only ones. When the COVID hit, there were still people taking out the garbage, cleaning the floors, making sure the place was sanitary, aside from the nurses and the doctors. God bless them for doing their job. God bless the people who decided, there was people who were worried about getting vaccinated and whatnot, and were multiply vaccinated, who did the other jobs in the hospital to keep it going so that the doctors and nurses could eat something. We are all connected. And the problem in this society is to think that we are not. It's an illusion to believe that, I'm home to myself. We don't need foreigners. We don't need. Everything is connected. Whether you see it or not is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. The Ukrainian citizens that came here, who I happen to know, there's so many talented people who come into this country, and it could really showcase and benefit, but no, there's a certain arrogance about, well, let's keep it. God, if the United States did it like that, was like, let's keep all these management jobs and whatnot American, we would not have Google. We would not. Steve Jobs comes from immigrant parents. It's like, just freaking look into it. Just stop being so closed-minded. It will lead to your own suffering in a way, to think that you're isolated. We're not isolated. My Icelandic brothers and sisters, I want the best for them. This is not just about immigrants or whatnot. I have family, and I have friends, and I want to see what's best for all of them. I think we are at a turning point, and it's up to us to get the right information. It's up to us to look and investigate into these things and not listen to media that's already been bought, not listen to only politicians whose their incentive is not clear. Their incentive is not for the people because they're silent most of the time. And their silence speaks volumes. So that's my position on this. I hope that this message gets to one person who can maybe disseminate it, whether it be my voice or someone else's, to just think a little deeper and to not demonize those who are arguing for those who have no power. Unions are a collective bargaining tool because if you look in history, they had to be. They had to be. They were being literally worked to death. That's why unions came into existence. You act like it's like, oh, this is just something to piss the business leaders off. No, because they took it too far. Unions came into existence to be like, enough is enough. We need time off. We got families. We can't have our children working in the fields and shit. There are limitations, and government is supposed to hold those limitations on behalf of the people against economic power, which is business. And when government fails to do that, you have what's called fascism. You don't have democracy, you have fascists. And if you think you're better than Putin and all those other people, you just look nicer on camera. And you just say the most bullshit things that people tend to want to believe. Otherwise, you're really just, that kind of dictatorship in a different clothes. And you're not fooling anyone. You're fooling those who are sheep enough to just think that being able to afford their latest iPhone is enough until it actually hits them on the head.
That is a lot. Thank you for leaving us on that note, Jeffrey. With that being said, we can always clear the ball court and add a guillotine because it's always in fashion, I think.
French Revolution.
So, I'm glad you said all that. Mm-hmm. And I think we should say, at least I do, I support everyone that's on strike right now.
Yes. And on a positive note, because I believe there are a lot of good people working on behalf of those who are not like them. There are a lot of Icelandic citizens who are working on behalf of the immigrants who are busting their ass every day. There's a lot of Icelandic citizens who know what's going on, know what fairness is, and they put their ass on the line, they get up, and they work hard for people they're not related to. And because they know what's right. There's always people that do what's right. And I support those people. I support those people who, they plant a seed that they may never see the tree that grows from it. Okay? And there's plenty of Icelandic citizens that are doing that every goddamn day. And they don't get half the respect that they deserve. And they don't get all the attention that a lot of these leaders, business leaders get. And they should. They should get more. And you should listen to them. We should all listen to them because they know something that a great majority seem to want to plug their ears and close their eyes to. And it's not just immigrants who are suffering. There's Icelandic citizens, born and raised generations, who are suffering as well under this economic system that is not fair. It doesn't help them. Their hospitals are crumbling. The roads are crumbling. This is not what should be happening in a country of 300,000 that had 2 million visitors or plus keep coming to this country, spending money. They should not be paying taxes through their nose and getting nothing and getting less.
And that will be for another episode.
Whew!
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we're going to leave it there.
We'll leave it there.
But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Jeffrey, thank you.
Thank you, Sante.